Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining. As I said last week, although we've got a 3-hour slot, we don't need all of that 3-hour slot. I had a few issues putting the video together last night, this morning, which hopefully have been resolved. So apologies for the slightly delayed start. Now, you should be able to see the briefing sheet on the screen. If you can't, shout out. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but what I'm going to do is play the video for the practical and just give you a brief commentary, and then we can use the video from this chat to allow you to go back and do the actual manipulation and numerical work for the practical. Okay, so it's set today, submission 2 weeks time, as per the previous practicals. This one is we're using a Fiodelite to measure angles. I did talk about this last week, but basically I just wanted to show you this. So this is what you've got to complete as part of this practical. The angles are in degrees, minutes and seconds. I asked you last week to have a look at that. If you're struggling with working in degrees, minutes and seconds, let me know before Wednesday's lectures. But there's an example just to check you can get this mean value. Okay, so when we go through the practical, there are going to be a number of readings that we take. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that although reading is A, the target position, which you see in the video, is 0. If we rotate one way, it goes 0, 1 degree, 2, up. If we rotate the other way, it goes 0, 360, 359, so it goes the opposite direction. So you need to be aware in those instances, which there are a few of in the practical. So your tabulated values will be 360 minus the value you see on the Fiodelite. And I'll explain that in more detail in a bit. So let me just drop this screen and show you something else quickly, and then I'll play the video. Okay, again, I uploaded and talked to you briefly last Wednesday, the lecture 6 that I uploaded. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it now, see if I can share it with you. No idea why I can't see that. Okay, just bear with me a second. I just need to probably need to close the file down. Okay, so what you should be able to see on your screen now is a slide from lecture 6, which was uploaded. This is just to demonstrate. So basically in the practical, this is a traverse, and these are angles measured inside that traverse. So that's what the practical is showing today. The distances between these are normally, long distances, 50 to 100 meters, typically, and quite often further. But for the purpose of the practical, again, the area is small. You don't need to know the distance between the stations. That's not relevant to this practical. As I say, it will all tie in when we actually do the full traverse in a few weeks' time. Possibly that may be the first week back after Easter. Okay, so that's that. So we've got 5 stations. Let me just get the video up now. Okay, so the quality of this isn't great. Instead of doing a talk over, which I've done for the last couple, I'm just going to upload my discussion over the video after this lecture. Okay, so if you can't see the video, shout out. And if you've got any questions as I go through, also bear in mind I can't see the chat when I'm looking at my screen. So if you have any questions, just shout out and I'll pause it and try and answer those questions. So basically, what we have here, this is a point on the ground. Okay, we've marked 5 points on the ground. We've marked 5 points on the ground, and what you can see is one of those. The reason for the lump of chalk being there is this instrument has an optical lens on the side, which actually views through and down. So we can look through here to perfectly align it over the station. Because obviously when we're moving stations around, as I've spoken to you before, about timber with nails in, road nails, etc. This is what the screen on the Fiodelite looks like. So the vertical angle should be set at 90 and the horizontal angle at 0 degrees when we start. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to measure an angle between, this is a ranging pole in a stand. Normally these would be in the ground. I mean, bear in mind, normally we might be measuring between ranging poles or actual physical details. There's another ranging pole in the background here, okay, that you can see. Okay, so we're just doing a traverse in this paved area. So this is the second ranging pole. So don't worry about the labeling of the stations. You can call them whatever you want when you put them in your booking in sheet. So that's 1 station, 2 stations, 3 stations. We've got another 2 stations which you can't see yet, but we'll move around on. So the first thing you do is set the Fiodelite up, you level it. You may have noticed in the previous slide it wasn't leveled. It's since been leveled. There's 2 bubbles on here, a circular one and a straight one. And again, as I said, I'll give you a separate video on how to operate this with closer up details a later date. For now, just worry about the readings. Okay, so what we do is we aim it on the ranging pole, you rotate it. Visually, it's always good to do a check on the angle. Okay, so if I just pause it there, you can see from the ranging poles. So if you go right to left, this angle actually counts down. So the angle we are looking at here, which says 267 degrees, 42 minutes and 20 seconds, is actually 360 degrees minus that. So make sure you take that into account in your booking in. So if you swing the Fiodelite from right to left, it counts down from 360. If you go from left to right, it counts up from 0 to 360. So when you're going right to left, you just need to bear in mind that your actual value is 360 minus what you're looking at on the Fiodelite. Okay, so what we do, if you look at these 2 buttons here, don't worry about these 2 at the top. You can see they've got a plastic cover on so we don't accidentally push them. This one here is to set, so this actually resets the angle back to 0. This is a whole button. We always take an average value of at least 2 readings. It's to improve accuracy and also gives us a check because obviously the 2 angles should be the same. So when this has been rotated from right to left, our angle that we record in our book is 360 minus 267. Then we push this to hold that angle. Okay, so that angle is held in position. And then the Fiodelite is rotated back to the first station. Okay, focused in on the first station. It's an optical measuring device we're using here. So you have crosshairs, which we can't show you in the video, but again, you'll pick that up when we show you a more detailed one. The important thing is here, you remember then to release the lock on the angle. Okay. So it's back, the angle's still the same. It's not moved. So we've rotated it back on the base one, unlock the angle, and then we rotate it again to the station that we looked at in the first place. If you remember, the angle was about 267. Okay, so because when it goes around to 360, obviously it goes back to 0. It only measures 360 degrees. So you need to make sure you account for that when you're booking your values. And then if we look here, that's 175 degrees, 25 minutes and 40 seconds. Okay, so that is the second angle reading. So you need to manipulate the data to take into account of the two readings. Okay, so the first one, 267, then it's carried on to 175. So what you need to do is take the mean reading of the two angles we've measured and then put that in to your booking in sheet that you've been given. Okay, so that's the, actually I'll just show you here. So when we're leveling this, this dial here allows us, so you manually move the Fiodelite around, rotate it by hand, and then you fix it with this, and then you use this for fine adjustment to make sure your vertical angle is at 90 degrees, and the same here with your horizontal angle. Okay, and as I said before, once you get back either later in the semester or early next year, we'll set up an exercise to let you have a go on these yourself. They're relatively easy to use, but they are quite powerful instruments. And once you know how to use them, you can operate them very quickly. Okay, so again, the chalk on the ground, this is what we're focusing on. The Fiodelite is set up with 3 legs for stability, obviously. Okay, again, we're focusing, looking back. So this was where the Fiodelite was in the first place. We measured an angle from here to here. Now we've moved the Fiodelite and the 2 ranging poles, and we're taking the second angle in the traverse. Okay, this is not the most mind-blowing video because it's very repetitive, but it gives you an idea of what we're doing. So if you look in, I've tried to zoom in on these as best we can. I've checked them all, they are readable, but you'll have to pause the video when you go back on. So again, the angle is 360 minus 251 degrees, 51 minutes, 40 seconds. Okay, so that's the first reading from that one. And this is a second angle. When you have booked all of these angles in your sheet and worked out the mean value of them all, then there's a check you do on the angles, which is in the lecture. So basically, based on the number of stations that you have, you can calculate the number of total degrees there should be in your traverse and compare that to what you have. You can calculate your error, and then you can, what you would do is distribute the error equally amongst the angles. Okay, so this has been rotated back, the angle held, released, and then rotated again to remeasure it. So again, it gives us 2 angles. I'm not going to pause the video on all of these. You can play it back at your own time. That's 143.43. Okay. Like I say, I've checked, you can read them all, but you may have to pause the video as you go through. So that's the second angle that we've taken. Then we move on to the third angle. Okay, so we've moved from this station here, which you can see, it's where we measured last angle. We've moved the Fiodelite to the next station. We centered it over our piece of chalk on the ground. We set it up so the vertical angle is at 90 degrees. If the Fiodelite's pointing towards the ground, it's 0 degrees. That's the reason it measures 90 degrees. So when it's on 90 degrees, that means we're measuring on a perfectly horizontal line, because if we weren't, then it would cause problems with the computations. Okay, again on here, that angle 272, 56, 20. So again, because we went right to left, it will be 360 minus that angle. Okay, and then the same procedure again to measure the angle for the second time. So this is the third station we're doing. Okay, so we're going from right to left. Okay, the ranging poles that you can see that we're taking the levels to, the point on the ranging pole is sat over the chalk mark as well. Now this survey was done to give you an idea of how it's done. Accuracy won't be perfect, but if it's done very carefully, these can be very accurate surveys. Okay, so that's your second reading on this one. Okay, so that's 3 angles measured now. So you've got 6 readings in total, which you can take the average value of, the mean value of, and then we're moving the Fiodelite again. The only difference on here, now we've done the right to left readings because when you're on site, right to left, left to right, it does vary. It is actually always better if you can to do left to right readings. It's slightly more complicated doing it the way we've done it, and that was done deliberately to give you an idea or get you to gain some experience in manipulating the calculations of the angles in degrees, minutes and seconds. But on this one, you'll note we've gone left to right. Okay, so the Fiodelite was pointing on the left angle originally. Okay, and the angle is 121 degrees, 38 minutes, 40 seconds. So that's actually the pure angle reading. So in this case, you don't have to do 360 minus that angle. Okay, this is the only one station in the traverse that we covered where that is the case. All of the others, we've gone right to left, so the angles are 360 minus the angle shown on the Fiodelite. Okay, so we also do a second reading here. Okay, second reading. But obviously when you're doing the 2 readings, you have to start from the same place. So you have to go left to right or right to left. And then that reading being done, okay. Bit of adjustment there. We did actually make an error, which is a common one in this type of survey. When we held the angle and went back, the wrong button was pushed and the angle was reset. So we had to do that again. That's why the video looks a bit broken up there. But this is the second angle being remeasured. Okay, and you can see that's 243. Okay, which is double-ish what we had from the first one, which was 121. Okay, and then the last station, so to close a traverse, you can see the Fiodelite being moved here to the last station. You can also see this is what was done on the other stations, which you didn't necessarily see on the video fully. Okay, so we've only used 2 ranging poles here. Quite often we'd have more set out. And then you would just move the ranging pole off the station, put the Fiodelite down there. It gives you better definition of the traverse area because it's so small. We're not likely to lose sight of anything. Well, what's worth noting, the second person here, you'll have seen a pad on the floor. So while we're doing these, you wouldn't do a survey video. What you could do and go back and watch it. We would actually record the readings manually while we're doing it. Okay, you can store the readings in the Fiodelite electronically, but we would always copy them down manually just in case there was a problem with saving. And if you didn't realise that and you got back to the office, it could be problematic and you don't want to have to go out and do the whole survey again. Okay, so we're on the last station now, just setting up. Again, you'll see a pause in the video. We had a bit of trouble with the Fiodelite here. There are two bubbles on here, which I will show you. Both of them need to be precisely lined to make sure that when we've got the 90-degree line, then we are measuring horizontal. Okay, so that's set up. You can see our mark on the floor. So the level's been positioned over it. The two ranging poles are in final position for the stations. And then in a second, we'll actually do the recording. Okay, so I'll let you have a look at the video on the end. And we got the 5 stations. So your task, and this is relatively straightforward, this one. As I said previously, we looked at levels and we did a bit of tape measuring between lines. We've looked at angles now over the next couple of practicals, and we're going to start putting it all together. And the surveys practicals will be slightly more complicated in terms of what you have to do with them. But we've just done the individual elements up to now, which is the best way to do it. Okay, so the Fiodelite here has been positioned, just been fine-tuned for the final station. Okay. There you can see 90 and 0. Okay, so that's set up and ready to take the first reading, the first angled reading. Okay, so I just let the video play out and then I'll stop it, obviously. I will stop the recording for the practical, and then I'll stay online so you can have a look at this. You can well, you can work on it now. Your deadline is 2 weeks' time, and obviously if you've got any questions in the interim, you can ask me. But this one is relatively straightforward, as long as you can work out the mean value of the angles, then you should have no problems in doing it. I've done a quick numerical check on it and it looks okay, but if any of you find any problems numerically, for example, when you do the check, which is the sum of the angles, which is based on an equation given in the lecture slides, which is based on the number of stations that you have. Okay, so it's 4 times the number of stations minus 4. Then you can have a look at sorry, two times the number of stations minus 4 is what we work out, and then you multiply that by 90 and that gives you the total number of degrees there should be in your traverse. Okay, so that's the end of the video. Let me just unshare that screen. Okay, can you put this video on the practical on Canvas, please? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Alexander. I'll see in the comment there. Appreciated. If you've got any other questions, just give us a shout. The last point put up, so just going through, I just check if there's any comments put in. Yeah, apologies if it was a bit waffly, but I can always not talk over them and just give you the blank videos next time if you prefer. I'm happy either way, just let me know what suits. The video, yes, so what I'm going to do is so you can listen to the waffle again when I stop the chat in here, which I will do now. I'll stop recording this now.